Cinco de Mayo, which means May 5th in Spanish, is marketed in the United States as a fun holiday for drinking and eating tacos and other Mexican foods. But the origins of Cinco de Mayo are linked to California Latinos who saw a battle in Mexico against France in 1862 as a victory for abolishing slavery during the U.S. Civil War of 1861 and 1865. Now, some people mistakenly think that Cinco de Mayo is celebrating Mexico's independence from Spain, which is celebrated September 16th because they declared their independence from Spain in 1810. It's also not celebrating the Mexican Revolution, which is celebrated on November 20th, and the Mexican Revolution began in 1910. There are approximately 2.5 million Afro-Mexicans in Mexico today. And during the transatlantic slave trade, approximately 200,000 enslaved Africans were taken into what is now Mexico between the 1520s and 1829, when slavery was officially abolished in Mexico by the second president of Mexico named Vicente Guerrero, who was Afro-Latino and a former slave himself. I'm historian and national political commentator Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network. Let's break down this history. So when we talk about Cinco de Mayo and the anti-slavery movement, did you know that the Mexican victory over the French army during what's known as the Battle of Puebla, May 5th, 1862, may have prevented French Emperor Napoleon III from helping the Confederate Army in giving victory to the Confederate Army during the U.S. Civil War. Now, during the French-Mexican War of 1861 to 1867, an outnumbered Mexican army defeats a powerful invading force at Puebla in Mexico. The retreat of the French troops at the Battle of Puebla represented a great moral victory for the people of Mexico, symbolizing the country's ability to defend its sovereignty against a powerful foreign nation. Well, why is France fighting against Mexico? Now, keep in mind that Mexico won their independence from Spain in 1810, and Mexico was conquered by Spain by Hernan Cortez, the conquistador, in 1521. The lead up to the battle began in 1860, when the Mexican government was bankrupt after decades of internal conflict, and the Mexican government announced that it was suspending debt payments to its European creditors for 2 years. Spain, the United Kingdom, and France did not like the delay and sent over joint forces in 1861 to collect on Mexico's debt. Spain and the United Kingdom ended up cutting deals with French Emperor Napoleon III, who was a nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, the ruler, the dictator Napoleon, who conquered Egypt in 1798. Now, Napoleon III had other plans, however. Emperor Napoleon III figured if he could get his hands on Mexico, it could become the first colony in a new French stronghold in North America. Now, keep in mind, because of the Haitian Revolution beginning in 1791, back then, Napoleon Bonaparte, his uncle, sold 828,000 square miles of land in what's known as the Louisiana Purchase of 1803 to the United States. President Abraham Lincoln, at this time in 1861, was busy fighting the U.S. Civil War. So the Americans would not stand in Napoleon III's way. Even better, with a French puppet government installed in Mexico City, Emperor Napoleon III could provide guns to the Confederacy, the Confederate States of America, to the South. He could provide guns to the Confederacy during the Civil War in exchange for Southern cotton, which was a scarce commodity in Europe thanks to the Union shipping blockades that President Abraham Lincoln puts in place during the U.S. Civil War. The Confederacy was able to use cotton as a bartering tool to fund the purchase of weapons, ammunition, and ships from British manufacturers. Now, this is very interesting because the U.S. came about during the American Revolution, 1775 to 1783, fighting against King George III of England. And here you have Great Britain, who did not officially abolish slavery until 1833. Here you have them engaging in commerce with the Confederacy, with the Southern states, the Confederate States of America, who seceded from the Union starting December 20th, 1860, with South Carolina becoming the first state to secede from the Union, so they could maintain slavery. Now, the transport of the armaments to the Confederacy was made possible by the lucrative cotton trade that tempted blockade runners to pierce the Union blockade for potential profits of 300% to 500% per voyage. U.S. President Abraham Lincoln had declared a naval blockade to on the Confederacy in April of 1861 to prevent its shipments of cotton to European powers. The blockade covered the seaports along the southern Atlantic coast, below Washington, D.C., and extended along the Gulf Coast to the Mexican border. In early 1862, well-trained French forces of about 6,000 troops under the confident command of General Charles de Lorenzo marched from the port city of Veracruz, Mexico, with the aim of capturing Mexico City. But on May 5th, 1862, the French took a surprise beating at Puebla, the city Puebla, and this is known as the Battle of Puebla. They took a beating at Puebla at the hands of Mexican General Ignacio Zaragoza and a ragtag group of enlisted and volunteer troops that numbered between 2,000 to 5,000. So the Mexican troops are outnumbered, but they're going to defeat the French troops at what's known as the Battle of Puebla on May 5th, 1862. The French army is going to retreat to Veracruz, and they would not return to take Puebla until a full year later in May of 1863. And it's because of this victory over the French army on May 5th, 1862, this is why people started celebrating Cinco de Mayo. Now, Cinco de Mayo is more popular in the United States than it is in Mexico. Some people contend that the year-long delay of the French invasion gave Abraham Lincoln's generals just enough time to win decisive Union victories before Napoleon III could provide upgraded artillery and ammunition to the Confederacy. Quote, by the time the French occupied Mexico City in June of 1863, the Battle of Vicksburg was already underway, end quote, says Eric Rojo, who is a retired U.S. Army colonel and commander-in-chief of the Military Order of the Loyal Legion of the United States. He points out that the Battle of Gettysburg during the Civil War was about to begin, and that Union victories were, quote, signaling the beginning of the end quote, for the Confederacy. He goes on to say, even if French were able to set their supply lines by mid-1863, it would have made very little difference in the outcome of the Civil War. Now, the critical timing of the French defeat at the First Battle of Puebla, May 5th, 1862, was not lost on Mexican Americans and other Latinos living in California, many of whom who had flocked to the state of California during the gold rush of 1849. Now, keep in mind, California used to be part of Mexico, And as a result of the Mexican-American War of 1846 to 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo of 1848 is what ends that war. And as a result of that treaty, the U.S. is going to get the area that makes up California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Nevada, and they get all of this area from Mexico. California is going to become a state in the Union in 1850. Okay. Now, David Hayes Batista, director of the Center for the Study of Latino Health and Culture at the UCLA School of Medicine, was doing research on 19th century Spanish-speaking California newspapers. He was doing research in 19th century Spanish-speaking California newspapers when he found news reports of the very first celebrations of Cinco de Mayo as early as 1862. Some of the first Cinco de Mayo celebrations are going to take place among Latinos in California. David Hayes Batista goes on to say that California Latinos were ardent Union supporters of the Union during the Civil War. When their home countries won independence from Spain, they had unilaterally abolished slavery and established citizenship for non-whites. Now, these Latinos are living in California, which was a free state, and California came into the Union in 1850 as a free state, and that's because of what's known as the Compromise of 1850. And they saw the pro-slavery Confederacy as an existential threat. Now, when reports reached Los Angeles, California, of General Ignacio Zaragoza's victory against the French, Latinos in California made the Civil War connection immediately. David Hayes Batista says, quote, in 1862, things weren't going well for the Union in the Civil War, but here in Puebla was a clear-cut victory that completely threw the French timetable off. The news reports just electrified Latinos and jolted them. The news reports just electrified Latinos and jolted them to a whole new level of organization and activity, end quote. So this is some background history on why Cinco de Mayo is celebrated. Now, many people today don't know the history that I just laid out to you and don't understand that there are 2.5 million Afro-Mexicans that are in Mexico today and really understand this background history. Now, for more information, read the articles that I have listed here in the notes here on this video, including one from history.com called How Cinco de Mayo Helped Prevent a Confederate Victory in the Civil War. The other articles from Axios.com and Ebony Magazine that I cite as well. I'm historian and national political commentator Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network. Follow me on Facebook and fan base at the African History Network, on YouTube and Instagram at Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Visit my website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Register for my online history classes on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can support us through Cash App, PayPal.me/the AHN show, and you can support. Visit my website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and register for the online history classes that I teach on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Kemet is one of the original names for Egypt. You can support the African History Network also through Cash App, $the AHN show through Cash App, and through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. We have that information right on the homepage of my website. And watch me on Fridays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when I appear as a panelist on Roland Martin Unfiltered, providing historical and political analysis. And I've been on Roland Martin Unfiltered for 5 years now. Download the Black Star app and follow Roland on YouTube and Facebook. Remember, right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.
Here at Sage and Elm, it's a plant thing. Everything is made by hand from plants, from our salves to our soaps, our lotions, our oils. Come shop our over 400 products made by hand from plants just for you, because you deserve the best.
Did you know that the Washington Monument is based upon an ancient African structure called a tekken that comes from the mythology of Asar, Arset, and Heru, who the Greeks called Osiris, Isis, and Horus? Did you know that the panther deity Bast in the movie Black Panther and Wakanda Forever comes from an ancient African deity, a neter in ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, called Bastet? Did you know that there were 17 pyramids found buried underneath Egypt around 2011? Also, the city of Memphis, Tennessee. What's the relationship between Memphis, Tennessee and Memphis in ancient Egypt? I'm historian and national political commentator Michael Imhotep. Be sure to register for my new 12-week online history course, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Kemet is one of the original names for Egypt. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Did you know that the word Wakanda is a real word? We find it in the Key Congo language, which is a Bantu language, but we also find it in the Omaha Ponca and Sioux Indian Native American languages. My class starts up Saturday, March 1st, 2025, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is a 12-week online history course. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. When we talk about the transatlantic slave trade, we can't start our studying of the history in 1619 in Hampton, Virginia, or in Jamestown. We can't start in 1441 with the transatlantic slave trade starting with the Portuguese. We have to deal with thousands of years of history that leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. We'll deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, who take the teachings from the Nile Valley region of Africa into Europe, and this is what brings Europe out of the Dark Ages. We'll talk about ancient African empires, whether we deal with ancient Nubia, whether we deal with Kush, Kemet, Mali, Songhai, Ghana. This is a 12-week online history course. We deal with 80 to 100 articles. There are 200 slides that I show you in the class. There are video clips. There are 15 books that we reference. You don't have to buy any of the books to follow along in class. It's a very visual class, so we show you all that information right on the screen. The class is PG-13 as well, so you can use this with your children. Download my lesson plan from my website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Register right now. Right now, it's correct strong behaviors, not over till we win. Wakanda forever. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll see you in class. Peace.
Here at Sage and Elm, it's a plant thing. Everything is made by hand from plants, from our salves to our soaps, our lotions, our oils. Come shop our over 400 products made by hand from plants just for you, because you deserve the best.
Is your child struggling with reading, writing, learning loss, and a culturally irrelevant curriculum? Do you want your child to be outstanding at reading and writing and also take pride in their culture? Then you want Reading Revolution Online. Reading Revolution Online is a web-based reading support program. We serve scholars in grades K through 8, and through our innovative approach, we help them build reading confidence and cultural identity development, equipping them for success in school and life. They learn about Black heroes and sheroes through captioned videos, reading selections, and other activities. Reading Revolution Online is an experience for the whole family.